Hello, grade 10s. Welcome to Maths Literacy Revision. Let's get started with our grade 10 revision. So 1.1 here says, two graphs below show the relationship between two quantities. So we're looking at two things. Graph A shows the number of grass cutters and the time they take to cut the grass. The number of grass cutters and the time they take to cut the grass, how long it takes to cut the grass and how many people it will take. Graph B shows the number of food, the amount of food required to feed a number of fish. So we're looking at fish and the amount of food they are going to be eating. Study the graphs to answer the questions below. So let's study the graphs. Okay. We're looking at graph A and graph B. We are told that graph A is grass cutters and time. Okay, so the number of grass cutters, they're looking at 4 grass cutters and the time it will take. So we can read here, if we have 4 grass cutters, how long it would take, or if we have 4 hours, how many people do we need to hire? Right? Okay, so we'll come back to reading the graph. And then on this side, graph B, we have the number of fish and the food. The number of fish, of course, is the numbers: 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, 4 fish. And then we have the fish food in grams, right? The unit of measurement is grams. Okay, so now let's read. If you look at the graph here, let's start with 4. If you look at 4, you'll see that the number of grass cutters at 4 is you go and you just look at the straight line going straight. Once you meet the graph here, you go on your left and you read the number of hours. So if you have 4 grass cutters, you will need to, they will take 20 hours. So if we want to cut the grass for 20 hours at least, we will need to hire 4 grass cutters. Same goes with 16. Let's read the 16 one. So what we do is, all right, so if you look at that straight line there and then you go right up, this is a line for 16, right? So that entire line there is 16. Wherever you are there, you're reading 16. So where it meets the graph here, we are then just going to say, okay, 16 there. Once we meet the graph, we then go straight to our left to read that number there. So 16 grass cutters will take 8 hours. Okay, let's try reading using hours. So let's take 12, for example. If I have 12 hours, I'll go there. Once I meet the graph, I go down. 12 hours will take 12 hours we will need 12 grass cutters. We have 24 there, which takes 4 hours. We can read it like that. Okay, so now we're going to look at the fish. For fish, we have 1 here. So 1 fish will need 4 grams. And let's take another random one and say 24 grams will feed. So 24 grams will feed, and then when we meet the graph, we go down. We'll feed 6 fish. And let's see if we have 36 grams. There, meet the graph. There, go down. Once you meet the graph, 9 fish will be fed with 36 grams. Let's just do one more where we say, okay, we've got 4 fish. How much do we need? The amount of food, 16 grams. So that's how you read a graph. Okay. So now here, let's go to the questions. Graph A shows the proportion of grass cutters in relation to the time they take to cut the grass. So when we look at the number of grass cutters and the hours, we see that when we have 4 hours, we need 20 grass cutters. But when we have 4 grass cutters, we need 20 hours. When we have 8 grass cutters, we only need 16 hours. So what if we have 16 hours, we need 8 grass cutters. If we have 20 hours, we need 4 grass cutters. So as I'm going along, I'm seeing that when I increase my grass cutters, my time then decreases. When I decrease my grass cutters, my time increases, right? So what's happening here is that when my hours go up, My grass cutters go down. So when my hours increase, my grass cutters decrease. When my grass cutters increase, my hours go down. So they are opposite each other. So that we call an inverse proportion or indirect proportion, right? So graph A shows the proportion of grass cutters in relation to the time they take to cut the grass. What type of proportion is shown in graph A? So the answer here is inverse or indirect. Two. According to graph B, the ratio of fish food to number of fish is 40:10. Simplify the given ratio. Okay, so always read your question twice. According to the graph B, okay, this graph here, the ratio, remember what is ratio? It's a number dot dot number. So that's how we write a ratio. We say number dot dot, and then we are comparing the two. Just like in the graph here where the fish and food are compared, it does the same thing. Fish to what? To food. Okay. So remember, it can be a ratio can be number dot dot number dot dot number. So it doesn't have to be two numbers. Fish food, number of fish. Okay. So this one is the first one that they wrote. They said fish food, and then 2, it will be the dot dot, and then the fish will be the one on the other side. See, so they always go accordingly. We write them in the sequence they are written on the ratio. So if they tell you to write the ratio of the ratio of fish food, you start with the fish food, and 2, and then say dot dot fish, then you go and get the fish. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. If we were to do the number of fish here at 4:16, and they would say fish food, we would have said fish food would be 16:2, and then we write the fish, which is to 4. So we start with the food and we end with the fish. If they had said let's write the ourselves, right? Okay, so that's not asked. So they're giving us the ratio, which is 40:10, and they're just saying simplify the ratio, make it simpler. Okay, I'm already seeing the answer there. The simplest in this ratio is 4:1, but let's go and simplify. So before you simplify the ratio, copy it down. 40:10. Now what I do is I always say, what happens if I divide? I always start with the smallest number, and I say, what happens if I divide this number by 1? And I go to my calculator. 40 divided by 1, nothing happens. Okay, so let me move on to 2. So what happens if I say 40 divided by 2, and it's 20? Okay, fine. And I say 10 divided by the same number that I divided this side, which is 2. And then I'm going to get, so if I divide this, I'll get, if I say 40 divided by 2, and I say 10 divided by 2, I get 20:5, right? Okay, so I've simplified it, but it's not in the simplest form. I don't need to know that. I can just check before I say this is my answer. Let me check again. So I can say 20, I start over. Now I have 20:5. So I say 20 divided by 1, nothing happens. Fine, I forgot. I have to start at 2 divided by 2, and then I get 10. Okay, let me check if I divide 5 divided by 2. Okay, now we have a problem because I'm getting a comma. That one doesn't, 2 doesn't work. I'm going to go to 3. 20 divided by 3. 3 doesn't work. It's giving me a comma as well. So I'm going to go to 4. 20 divided by 4. Oh, okay, it's going to be 5 that side. Okay, I need to divide by 4 on that side. 5 divided by 4 doesn't work. So I'm going to move on to the next one. 5. 20 divided by 5. 20 divided by 5, that's 4. And then, okay, 5 divided by 5, that's what, 5 works. So let's go ahead and divide by 5 this side, divide by 5 this side. So what happens now is we say 20 divided by 5, and we get 4 is 2. And then we say 5 divided by 5, you get 1. So that's how you manually simplify a ratio or a fraction. But you can also just go use your calculator. Your calculator has a button that's like this. So just enter 40. Press this button here and enter 10. Say is equal to, it'll give you exactly this number, right? So you'll write, I think it'll write it as 4R1. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't use scientific calculators. Let's move on. The answer then is 4:1, and you get your 2 marks. Okay, so what type of proportion is shown in graph B? Let's go back to graph B. What type of proportion is shown in graph B? So remember, proportion depends on if they're increasing together, decreasing together, or one is increasing while the other is decreasing. Let's check. So let me check. Number of fish 1 and fish food 4. Number of fish 2, my fish have increased, and my fish food 8. Ooh, my fish increased. Okay, so my fish increased and my food increased. Well, this one then is direct. So now we have here 1.1.3 direct proportion. Right? Okay, we're going to 1.2. Let's take a look at 1.2. All right. So 1.2 says, Austin is in a grade 9 learner at Masizake Secondary School and decides to sell black pens to make some extra pocket money. Good for him. If the total cost for a pack of 12 pens is 42 rands, how much does each pen cost? Okay. So we have a total pack cost. And this pack has 12 pens. One pack is 42 rand. That we're sorted by that. But now inside the pack, when we open it, we find 12 pens. So how much? Remember now, he's not selling them yet. It's the cost, right? So this is how much he's going to pay when he's ordering what this is going to cost him at the wholesalers. Okay, so he's buying the pens at 42 rands, and the pens, there's 12 of them. So for 42 rands, you get 12 pens, right? So we want to know how much did he pay for one pen. So we are going to divide the 42 rands by 12. Why are we dividing the 42 rand? We're just taking the 42 rand and assigning it to each pen 12 times, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why are my pens like this? Why am I doing pens like this? Let me do it differently. 1, that's a pen, 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 that's a pen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have these 12 pens, and they are all of them 42 rands. So what we're going to do is we're going to allocate money to each pen so we can find out how much one pen costs. So it's easy. What we can do is we just say we have 12 pens, and we just divide. That means we are cutting the 42 rands into 12 pieces, right? Because it belongs to 12 pieces. So we cut by using divide by. Now, if you're not sure whether you should say 12 divided by 42 or you should 42 divided by 12, what we do is you can write it down and say, okay, 12 pens you have to buy, they are the same as 42 rand. They are equal to 42 rands. And then you say, okay, I want to know one pen. So you see how I wrote pens this side and pens this side on one side. So I'm going to write money on the other side. And then I say, I do not know how much one pen is, but I'm going to find out by cross multiplying. So this will also come out. So here we say 12 pens times that amount. The unknown is equal to 1 pen times 42. So this method is the same, right? So you can just keep trying. Let's see if we say 3 times 4. If we say 3 rand times 12, will we get 42? If you get 42, then the pen is for 3 rand. If you say 4 rand, so and so on. But this is how we would help you to get it correct every time. So now that my unknown is here, I need to find my unknown sitting on its own. So what I'm going to look what's happening here. 12 is multiplying the unknown. So I have to do the opposite of multiply, which is divide by. I'm going to divide by 12, and that goes away. And this side as well, I'm going to divide by 12. So you see, 42 divided by 12. Now, if you do it this way, you're always going to get it correct. So learn cross multiplication. 12 pens cost 42 rands, and then I'm going to say 1 pen. See how I wrote? I'll start with your is equal to first and then write your 1 pen under other pens and then say the money. I do not know the money this side, so I'm going to cross multiply. So I say 12 times unknown is equal to 1 pen times 42 rands, and then unknown divide by 12 this side, divide by 12 this side. So that cancels that, and then we have 42 divided by 12, 350. 3,5, that means 350, not 3 rands and 5 cents. The 5 cents is written like this. That would be 3 rands, 0.5. So this would be 3 rand 5 cents. That's not that. This is 3 rand 50, 3,5. Right. So we're going to go to 1.2.2. He decides to sell each pen for 5 rand. Calculate the percentage profit he will make. Before we calculate the percentage profit, I just want us to understand what is percentage profit. Okay, here we have the word profit. So he is selling the pen at a higher price than what he bought it for. So he's going to make a profit because he increased it. Now let's check how much he increased it by. We're going to say 5 rand minus the money he bought it for. He increased it, we call it a markup. He increased it by 1 rand 50. So he bought the pen for 3 rand 50, added 1 rand 50, so 3 rand 50 plus 1 rand 50, and then he said, okay, my profit is going per pen is going to be 1 rand 50. So 1 pen makes a profit of 1 rand 50, right? A profit. Now they're saying we know that the pen makes a profit of 1 rand 50. We want the percentage. What is the percentage of this? Okay, so what we do is the percentage for the profit. That's what this means. The percentage for the profit. Now let's look at our percentage profit formula. Selling price minus cost price. Okay, how much is he selling the pen for? He's selling the pen for 5 rand selling price. How much did it cost him to buy the pen? It cost him 3 rand 50. Remember, we calculated that. So selling price minus cost price, which is 3 rand 50. Well, look at that, 1 rand 50. Then we're going to divide by the cost price. If we divide by the cost price, which is 3 rand 50, we're going to get a decimal. Once we multiply by 100, we get a percentage. So now you see where it's all coming from. So now I just want to give you some information. Percentage profit and percentage change is the same thing. So because this pen was 350 when he bought it, he changed the money to 5 rand. So they're saying, what is the percentage of the change that he made, right? So where the formula says percentage change is equal to current price minus previous price divided by previous price, or current value minus previous value divided by previous value times 100%, right? Okay, so you might have to know the formula because they're no longer given in the question papers. So let's answer this question. 1.2.2, that one was 1.2.1. Okay, so percentage profit, we're going to use the formula as is equal to, remember they're not asking us to calculate the profit. They're not asking us to calculate the percentage of the pen. They're asking us to calculate the percentage of the profit. So we need to know what the profit is and then divide that profit and get a percentage. Okay, so what we do is we're going to calculate here on the same formula, selling minus cost price divided by cost price multiplied by 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to say percentage profit, and then we're going to substitute on the formula. So here on the formula, we have 5 rand, right? We have 5 rand, which is the selling price. I'm just going to write the 5 rand instead of selling price, minus what was our cost price? We calculated it there at the top when we said 42 rand divided by 12, we got 3 rand 50. So that's 3 rands and 50 cents. And then we divide that by the cost. Remember, current minus previous divided by previous. Okay, so that would be 3 rand 50. And then we're just going to multiply the answer from there with 100. Now, before you go and multiply and divide and do all of that stuff, the first thing you do is you first say 5 minus 350 and write your answer. So, okay, percentage profit, I haven't used yet. And then I'm going to say is equal to, then I'm going to say 5 minus 350, and I get 1 rand 50. And then I say divide by 3 rand 50. I'm still going to use these other numbers here. So now I'm going to do the next step. I'm going to say 1 rand 50 divided by 3 rand 50. So 1 rand 50 divided by 3 rand 50. And then I'm getting 0.428571428. Then I'm going to multiply this decimal number in order to get a percentage. So I'm going to say multiplied by 100. And then times by 100, and then I get 42,8571428.6, and this is percentage. So I'm just going to check if they said anything about rounding. If they didn't, then I can round off to any decimal. There is nothing there that says I must round off. So I'm going to round off to 2 decimal or to a whole number, whichever I like. I like 2 decimal. So I'm just going to say 42.86%. If you round off to a whole number, anything, it's fine. You don't have to worry about that because the question didn't ask you to round off. 1.3. 1.3 says Mrs. Bales has decided to buy a new stove to make her cooking and baking easier. She shopped around and found a 4-plate stove shown below. Now, the cash price for the stove, if you go to the shop and you've got 5,000 rand, you will then pay 4,999 rands and get 1 rand change and take your stove with you. Now, not everyone always has 4,999 rand cash lying around. So what he's going to do is they can then buy the stove at a higher purchase. That means you rent the stove until it's done being paid. Once the money covers what they want, then the stove is yours, right? So in this situation, should you decide to buy on a higher purchase, then the account here, you have to pay a 10% deposit. So with this amount here, we're going to use this amount. The stove is 4,999 rand. That's how much the stove is. That's the only number we have. And then we say, okay, pay a 10% deposit. That means the 10% will come out of there. So then the rest of the money with interest will then be divided into numbers, into months, and then depending on how long it takes. So this guy is going to pay 369 rands and 89 cents per month. And this already includes interest. And then he's going to do that for 24 months, right? So he's going to pay every month. He's going to go pay 369.89 cents to the shop. And then the next month he's going to pay 316 until his whole amount is paid up. Now, does he end up paying 4,999 rand? Does he end up paying less? Does he end up paying more? We can calculate that by finding all the money that he's taken out. Write down the cash price in words. Okay, that's a lovely question. Write down the cash price in words. So there's the cash price. We're going to write it in words. It says there 4,000. So we're going to say 4,000. And then there's 9. We say 900. And then we have 99. And 99. Right, so 4,999. So if you look at this number here, 4,999. Always read your numbers from the right and then figure them out. So that's 9, that's 99, right? That's 9, that's 99, that's 999. The space here, which is the first space coming from the right, is 1,000. And then therefore this is 4. So this number is 4. Then you read the space, which is 1,999, right? Read it. Do it one more time. So you read this as 999, 999, the space 1,999, and then this number here is 4, which means this is 4,999. 1.3.2. Calculate the deposit needed if she decides to buy the stove on account. Now, so if we look at the deposit, it said here 10%. 10% is not money. It's the rate of the deposit. So what we are going to use is the percentage that we are going to use to find out how much is a deposit. Percentages are not money. Percentages are percentages, right? So percentage here for the deposit is 10%. That means we can use 10% to calculate how much is going to need to pay as the deposit. A deposit is something that you pay up front, right? Okay, so let's calculate there. We have to calculate the deposit, which is equal to, then we are going to take the price of the stove. Well, that's because when you walk to the shop, they say it's 4,999 rand. And then you say, I want to buy it on a higher purchase. They say, okay, 10% deposit. So we've got 10% plus the price and the price. And then you have 4,999 rands. Then we multiply with the percentage so that we can find out how much is the deposit. So I like to do this in different steps where I say 4,999 multiply by, I rewrite this as 10 over 100, right? And then I do this and I say 4,999 multiplied by 10 over 100, that is 10 divided by 100, that is 0.1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 4,999 times 0.1, and then I get 499 rands and 9, right? But then this is 90 cents. This is not 9 cents. 9 cents is written as 499.09. So if it just says 9, then the 0 is on the other side. I'll show you. Look at this. 499 rands, comma 90, like that, right? But then if I say is equal to, look at what the calculator does. It removes the 0. So if the 0 is on the other side on the comma, and this is the last number after the comma, then the calculator doesn't write it. But it's 90 cents. It's not 9 cents. Okay, we know how much he's going to pay. He's paying almost 500 rand for the deposit. That's cute. Okay, now what happens is, look at this. Now he's going to say 4,999 minus 499 rand and 90 cents. So that's how much is left for him to pay over the rest of the months, right? But that's not true because they're still going to add interest. He's buying on higher purchase. But remember, he's already paid 500 rand. So this amount won't have interest. Therefore, it is removed before they calculate the interest. Okay. Don't say that. So now calculate the total amount she will pay for the stove if she bought on account. Okay, so calculate the total. We can show everything, right? Okay, calculate the total amount. They're asking for the money that she will pay for the stove if the stove is bought on account, so on higher purchase. So let's go. He first pays the deposit, and then he pays 369.89 for 24 months. It says there, and therefore we'll find out. Okay, so 1.3.2, we said he's paying a deposit, so the cost here is equal to, he's going to pay 499 rand and 90 cents. He has to pay that plus, okay, now he's going to pay 369 rand and 90 cents, but he's not going to pay it for 1 month. He's going to pay this times 24, right? So, and then you get your answer, which is, first I'm going to say how much is this, and then say 369.90 multiplied by 24, and then you get 8,877.60, and then you add the deposit because you also paid that 4.90, and then you get 9,377.50. so that is how much he ends up paying for the stove. Now right, just a small correction there. It's not 90 cents. It's 89. What did I write? 80, 90, 89. So let's correct that first before we end this. So that's 369.89 times 24. And that's 8,877.36, right? And then we add the deposit, which is 499.90, and the answer is 9,377.26. So another question they may ask here is, how much more is he paying? So what you do is you take the total here and you say So this is not the answer. The answer is done there. So if you find out how much more, you say 9377.26 minus the cost of the stove, which is 4999, and then you'll get how much more he's paying for the stove if he buys on account. So it's expensive to buy on credit than it is to buy cash. The advantage of buying on credit, though, is you pay tiny money every month because you might not have the 4,999 they might want all at once. And that's where we end our question 1, darlings. Tune in for question 2.